sport is such a big thing these days. There's so many channels you can watch sport, but Stellan was telling us that in Sweden when this happened there was only sort of 2 channels, so everyone was kind of tuned in. Do you remember the kind of, well, I don't know if you're old enough to remember it in the first instance, but the kind of impact it had at the time?
Well, in Denmark there was only 1 channel and it showed all the Wimbledon every summer. But I mean Sverrir and I are both too young to remember the actual match, but I mean for me, of course, Björn Borg and John McEnroe were like huge figures in my childhood. So they were there. They were very present, and I remember the excitement of everyone waiting for McEnroe to blow a fuse. You know, and I still remember those early images that obviously came back to me during the research of this movie on him like freaking out on the umpires, or hitting glasses of cups of water with his racket and stuff like that. Björn Borg was. I mean, he stopped his career actively in '81, and I was 6-7 years at the time, and Sverrir was even younger, so he was more of a mythological figure, I think.
I was 2 years old in 1980, but growing up in Iceland, we didn't even have a TV on Thursdays.
Oh.
Yeah, but Borg was a big known figure in Iceland as well, so like the rest of the world. He was like Michael Jackson or the Pope or something.
I was going to say, there's a huge...
Yeah, it was the first impact. Rock star of tennis.
I was going to say, because in sport these days, I mean, there's so many, footballers and everything, and boxing and everything else who are such superstars. Yeah. But him, in those days, was the equivalent, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think it's also, the early commercialization of sports. I mean, these are some of the first rock stars of the history of sports. I mean, you have, obviously, legendary sports stars and soccer players and everything before that, but the big money only really came into sports in the late 70s, and suddenly you have this, there was an aura around tennis and the personalities of tennis, which was partly because there were great personalities in that golden era of tennis. I mean, Björn Borg made the game sexy and popular, and John McEnroe came in and just made it all exciting and dangerous, and kind of, I think, they both brought generations of youth to the game. But it was also, a time when media had much more access to the stars. There wasn't this kind of filter of branding and, spin doctors or communication experts and media junkets. I mean, you could walk up to people and I mean, I've seen archive footage of journalists getting into fist fights at press conference because McEnroe would walk out as, someone asked a provocative question and everyone else would get angry. And I think these are well-known stories in the history, like UK media history. But I mean, these things don't happen anymore. It was a wonderful sort of innocent time in that sense.
How much of an input did they have? Did you go to them beforehand and say, we're making the movie, and you as an actor, did you get a chance to speak to...
Well, actually, I chose to meet Björn after the shooting.
Okay.
I met him at the premiere, but his son is playing the young him in the movie, and so he had some insight in the movie, but he was not involved in that way.
Well, we reached out to them actively from an early start. I mean, once the script was kind of in a place where we would like to take it into production, we were trying to get them involved. It was very difficult. I mean, these guys are huge stars, and they have their interests to protect, I guess. But the wonderful thing that happened was that during production we had a contact with Björn. And his son was in the movie, and I was able to sit down with him and talk to him about his life and show him raw material. We reached out to McEnroe many times and talked to a lot of people around him. And now we're here. And I mean, Björn has seen the movie. He loves it. He wrote to me that he was very touched by it, and he came to the premiere in Sweden, and everyone came out to celebrate. McEnroe, I'm still hoping to get a chance to sit down with him and talk about the film.
Let me ask you about working with Shia, because similar to McEnroe, he's a very kind of unique talent in his way. He's made some very interesting movies over the years. For you as a director, what was it about him that made him perfect? And for you, what was it like alongside him?
Well, for me, you know, the parallels between Shia and John are obvious. I mean, they both had a lot of controversy around their life. They both had felt misunderstood by the media, and they're also, I think, which is more, maybe even more interesting, they're also people who both thrive on their emotions to create a sense of intensity, either as an actor or as a tennis player, and that's a very, very difficult thing to do and a very skillful thing to be able to do. So we use that a lot on set. You know, as a director, it's a dream scenario to be able to work with actors that have so much in common with their characters and that are willing to go that way.
I have to say, I think Shia is a brilliant actor. He's one of the best actors I've ever worked with, and he's so good at using his energy in a good way, to use it in the right moment, and get everybody on his toes. So it was a pleasure working with him, and he's so true in every moment, and we had a good time working with the tennis, learning the duels and the points.
I can imagine in the UK this will be, you know, I think that a lot of people want to see, because obviously Wimbledon and everything else. Are you hopeful that, you know, a decent audience go and see this one that are tennis fans and not tennis fans?
Of course. I mean, we want people to see the stuff that we made. I mean, I don't think, even though I would say that it's a very personal thing for me to make movies, and when they're done, there's something that's kind of wrapped up and on the shelf, and I'm ready to move on. But obviously, you know, I'd like people to be affected by and touched by and think about the movies that I make, and I hope that they have that effect on people. This film's now traveling the whole world, and it's going to find audiences around the world. Obviously in Sweden it's a huge deal, and I hope it will be here too. I mean, the history of Wimbledon is you know, the life and blood of the Brits, so I really hope that people come out for the movie.
And I have to say that you don't have to be a tennis fan to go see the movie, because it has tennis in it, but it's more about the psychological side of tennis and about people.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey